If I told you that eating an apple would spike your blood sugar less than a bowl of heart-healthy whole grain cereal, would you believe me? Or that the government's dietary guidelines have completely gotten carbs wrong for the last 50 years? Actually, you probably believe that one already. Here's the thing. I used to be one of those anti-carb crusaders. I thought all carbs were evil. I've gone through keto phase. I've gone through paleo phase. I've gone through like extreme intermittent fasting phase. And I thought that carbs were the enemy. Then I started lifting seriously again, and my energy started to tank. My workouts suffered. My sleep started to suck. And I realized I was actually working against my body's design. Turns out the problem isn't carbs themselves. It's how much and when we eat them. And it's the industrialized frankenfood garbage that we've been sold, the ultra-processed foods that are destroying the health in this country. Today, we're going to dig into what the latest research says on carbs, when to eat them, how much we actually need, and which ones are going to be better for you in the long run. Hi, I'm Dr. Will. I'm a family wellness chiropractor, and I've been helping families unlock their God-given healing potential for over a decade. And I get this question all the time. Dr. Will, what do you eat? What does your family eat? How much protein, fat, carbs, all of the different things? Like, what does your diet look like? Because people want to be healthy and they want to know how to do it. So here's the problem. We live in one of the most carb-confused generations. In America, 60% of our diet comes from carbohydrates, and it's not healthy carbs even. It's ultra-processed, made in a factory carbs. And look at what that's been doing to our health. Obesity rates are skyrocketing. Childhood obesity is terrible. Diabetes is out of control. We're clearly doing something wrong. So by the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly why your grandma and your great-grandmother and your great-great-great-great-grandfather ate plenty of carbs during their day, but they're healthier than we are today. We'll understand the simple math that determines whether carbs go for energy or they go to fat storage. And we'll talk about the backyard test, which will easily tell you which carbs are good for you and which might be bad. Not too long ago, I was that guy that preached that carbs were evil. I've taught people to try keto, to go low carb, to try several different things. And I was actually doing that here earlier this year, but I let them get a little bit too low. And what I found when I was starting to skip carbs in my meal plan, just for convenience, actually, more than anything. And what I found was my energy tanked, my workout suffered, my strength started to go downhill, and I knew that I needed to change something. And the one thing that I was doing wrong turned out to be I wasn't getting enough carbohydrates in my diet. Now, you got to remember, our bodies are designed to process whole foods, and the three macronutrients are protein, fat, and carbohydrates. We talked earlier about how we need more protein than we're currently getting. The last video, we talked about how fats are kind of Goldilocks. We need to get at least enough, but not too much. And carbs are very similar to the same thing. But what kind of carbohydrates is just as important as how much. Now look at how we would normally eat. If we had to go out in the forest and forage, a lot of the calories that we would find would be in the form of carbs, primarily plant matter. However, that fruit that I pick off the tree is very different than that breakfast cereal that comes in a box. It's really cool how fruit affects the body. In fact, there's been research that shows that people who ate whole fruits and unprocessed starches, so that's like potatoes and rolled oats, their insulin sensitivity actually improved, didn't get worse. The study actually showed that even short-term consumption of naturally occurring carbohydrates improved blood sugar regulation and decreased insulin resistance. But here's where it gets really interesting. Let's talk about what those healthy whole grain cereals are actually doing to your body. There was a huge study that just came out in 2024, and it shows that ultra-processed foods, which include most of our breakfast cereals, breads, pasta, and snacks, are now linked to 32 different adverse health conditions and outcomes. There was an umbrella review of almost 10 million people. It was a huge population-wide study, and they found that for every 10% increase in ultra-processed food consumption, your risk of dying early goes up by 3%. We're talking about a 50% higher risk of cardiovascular death in some of the worst offenders. But here's the kicker. Those foods are mostly processed carbs. The government tells us that grains are the best base of our diet, but those what could potentially be healthy carbs, it turns them into metabolic poison, essentially. I like to think of this like the backyard test. If I can grow this food in the backyard and process it myself in the kitchen and safely eat it, then yes, that is a healthy carb for me. So fruits, yes. Potatoes, yes. Whole grain cereals, not so much. So when carbs require industrial processing, high heat, chemical extraction, synthetic additives, they become something our body doesn't recognize. And your insulin response actually goes haywire. Inflammation can skyrocket. And our body will start to store that rather than burning it because it doesn't know what to do with it. So if processed carbs are such a big problem, but good carbs are absolutely necessary, how much do you actually need? So here's where the low carb fanatics and the high carb government guidelines get it wrong. Your body doesn't need 60% of its daily calories from carbs like My Plate suggests, but it also doesn't need zero carbs like some keto gurus preach. After years of experimenting both on myself and with thousands of patients, here's what I found that works best, and this is actually backed up by some more recent research as well. Somewhere between 0.5 gram of carbs per pound of body weight and 1.5 grams of carbs per pound of body weight, which works out to about 20 to 40% of your daily intake, depending on where you're at. If you're trying to lose weight and you're in a deficit, it should be closer to the 20% side. So if you weigh 150 pounds, that's roughly 75 to 225 grams of carbs per day. If you're on the more active side, and you're training, then go towards the higher number. If you're on the more sedentary side or you're trying to lose some weight, go for the smaller number. So it's not the 300 grams that government wants you to eat, and it's not the near zero that fitness and keto advocates are going to try to push on you. It's what your body actually needs to fuel your brain, support your workouts, and maintain healthy metabolism. And research shows that more moderate approach actually optimizes insulin sensitivity while providing plenty of glucose for proper brain function and muscle recovery. So you get the metabolic benefits of a lower carb approach while not totally messing up your production by going too low. But here's the thing. When you eat those carbs is almost as important as how much you eat. It turns out that your body has an internal clock that determines whether carbs get burned as energy or stored as fat. And most people are eating them at exactly the wrong time of day. Recent research suggests that your metabolism actually mirrors and follows your circadian rhythm. Specifically, it shows that insulin sensitivity follows a 24-hour rhythm. Your body is more insulin sensitive in the morning, and it becomes progressively more insulin resistant as the day goes on. So that means that bowl of breakfast in the morning is handled completely differently than the rice and the potato that you have for dinner. Morning carbs are more likely to be used as fuel as the day goes on. Evening carbs, more likely to end up on your waistline. Our body wasn't designed to eat processed carbs while we're snacking, watching Netflix at night. So here's the really simple rule on this. Eat carbs when you're going to use them. That looks like pre-workout. That looks like in the morning before you start the day. All of that is going to be when your insulin sensitivity is at the highest and your body's more likely to use and burn those for energy. We talked a little bit about this already, but you could have the right amount and the perfect timing. But if you're eating the wrong sources, all of this is going to go haywire. I like to think of it like this. It's not just low carb or high carb. It's not just morning or evening. It's real carbs versus fake carbs. Your body was designed to process real whole foods. We're talking potatoes and fruits and vegetables, and yes, even properly prepared grains. It's not been designed to handle industrial seed oils, high fructose corn syrup, and chemical preservatives. And that's why I generally recommend a paleo-inspired approach to carbs. If it grows in my backyard and I can prepare it in my kitchen, it's probably good for me. If it requires a factory and a lab, it's probably not. Here's some practical examples. A whole apple versus apple juice. A sweet potato versus sweet potato chips. Steel-cut oats versus instant oatmeal packets. Rice versus rice crackers. See the pattern here? When you eat carbs the way that God designed them, whole, unprocessed, and in reasonable amounts, they become fuel for your body and not fat for your belly. So here's the bottom line. Carbs are not evil. Fish are friends, not food. So here's the bottom line. Carbs are not evil. They are friends, but also food. They're not evil, but they're also not created equal. Aim for a 0.5 gram per pound of body weight up to 1.5 grams per pound of body weight, depending on where you're at, losing weight versus trying to gain muscle, and get it from whole, unprocessed sources. Eat them when you're going to use them, earlier in the day, right before exercise or heavy labor, and ask yourself, could I grow this in my backyard and prepare it in my kitchen? And that will tell you whether or not it's something you want to be feeding your family. Here's your homework. For the next week, apply the backyard test. For every carb that you're about to eat, look at it and think, man, this looks so delicious. But could I grow this out in the backyard? And could I process this in my kitchen? And if the answer is yes, stuff that in your face. If it's not, maybe pass on that and eat some extra protein instead. Look, I know that this contradicts a lot of what you've been told about heart-healthy whole grains and what the government thinks is good nutrition advice. But I think that your health is too important to follow guidelines that were influenced more by lobbyists than actual science. But I want to hear from you. What's one thing you learned in this video? Is there something that I got wrong? I read all of the comments and I would love to hear your feedback. And if you did get value from this video, do the YouTube things, hit the like button, hit subscribe, ding the notification bell, share this with a friend. All of those tell me that you like content like this. I'll keep making more of it and it makes sure that you get the next one when it comes out.